Hey guys, today I'm talking about this knife, the SOG Vulcan. This is like a large, I would suggest maybe harder use, dare I say, tactical style folding knife that is, in my experience, well enough suited to everyday carry for me to be calling this an EDC knife. It isn't huge, it's about 3.5 inches long, weighs about 150 grams. It's, getting towards the bigger, beefier side of things when you're talking about a field that's often full of Benchmade 940s at 86 grams and Spyderco Delicas at 78 grams, all that sort of stuff. Comparable, a little bit bigger, a little bit beefier, but still fairly carryable. So this is a Japanese-made SOG. They still do make a few of them in Japan. And I guess when you're weighing up a knife like this, you're looking for great value. You're looking for some good high-end materials. And you're looking for like a good, simple blade shape. Those are things that I'm after in all of my EDC knives. Now, when you look at the SOG Vulcan, you'll probably see that none of these are present whatsoever. So the SOG Vulcan cost me about $190. The materials are VG10 and FRN, and it's got a bit of a weird recurve style blade going on with swedges and little speed holes cut out of it, all that sort of stuff. SOG's designs are generally a bit overdone. They kind of remind me of when people wear too much denim. That's sort of, some extreme examples, and then you can sort of tone it back to say this knife here, which is maybe just some like tasteful-ish double denim. It's one of their better looking ones, but still definitely walking that line between garish and cool looking. I do love that standard like black and silver aesthetic that classic SOGs go for, but yeah, it's just a little bit much still. Let's take a look at that blade. So it's got a recurve blade, and it is an exceptionally well ground one. So SOG have a pretty decent history for having, especially in their Japanese factory, very good blade grind. So this is a thicker blade that has a hollow grind that is very, very thin behind the edge. So it's done very well. About as well as you could do a blade this thick, I would suggest. It still slices very, very, very successfully. This cheese here, this is one of the trickiest cheeses to slice. It's a sticky but hard cheese. Then moving on to Jarlsberg, which is a little bit easier. Just preparing a cheese platter for one of my manly nights out with the boys. Yeah, cheese and this knife actually doesn't do too badly. The shoulder of the hollow grind actually pushes the cheese apart. When you get to the sort of softer super vintage cheddar, it sort of seems to struggle a little bit, but you know what? I'm pretty sure SOG didn't design this knife with the intention of being a cheese cutting blade. Let's talk about the flipper and the action and whatnot. So you'll see it's got like what is really just a launcher on the back. I don't think they even go as far as to calling it a flipper because you need a fair bit of wrist to get it going. It isn't really linked intimately with a detent or anything like that. It is more of just another way of opening the knife with a bit of wrist. The thumb stud's perfectly capable as well, as is just pulling down that lock and just giving it a good old flickeroony. So SOG has a special lock with these knives that looks very similar to an Axis lock, but on the SOG it is called the arc lock. I had to pause and go and swat up. So it's a similar-ish type lock to use. It's a bit different in that it's still attached to that, as you can see, that little bar at the back there as well. And it has got a spring that's pulling it back sort of into its natural resting position, but it is different to Benchmade, which is like a single pillar on a rail with an omega spring around it. Just a little bit different. It's more lever-like. Whether it's stronger or not would really depend on how much of that tang you can see is being held against it while the blade is open. And in these knives, it's a Griptilian and this Vulcan, it's about the same. So I don't think it's too, better or worse than your Axis lock that you're used to. Some people seem to say it's stronger, but you never quite know what's sort of just marketing hype and who's bought it and whatnot. But it is certainly strong enough to do sort of harder tasks with. Now, don't look at this wood cutting like I'm trying to do anything particularly. I really am just testing out the ergos and the lock and whatnot. And, despite really wrenching down on it on some dry, nasty, rather glassy wood, the lock did absolutely fine and was really quite enjoyable to use for that task. The recurve blade is really sort of winning me over. The only thing you're going to have to understand is you're going to have to get like a Spyderco sharpener or like a belt style sharpener or use the edge of a stone because it's enough of a recurve for it to be a pain. But it is very, very good to use on things such as rope. clip, this is the thing that stopped it from being triple denim. It's still a little jazzier than I'd like, but it is practical, and they have mercifully restrained from writing SOG on it. SOG writes SOG on everything, and they didn't. And instead they just give you a very, very practical, super deep carry clip that you can flip over to the other side if you want, that has really no problems at all with it. I thought it was going to be a hot spot at first, holding the knife in hand, but it didn't end up being that. I don't know why, but it did. I remember thinking at the start, geez, that clip hurts to hold, but maybe I just got used to it. I don't know, but absolutely no problems at all. It is a really, really good clip. Fantastic. So some size comparisons. Immediately below the Vulcan, you can see the American Lawman, kind of the same category of knife, about 40 grams lighter, and then below that you've got the Native. So the Native is probably about another 70 grams lighter. And then above is a 4-pen. You remember a 4-pen? It's like the first cool pen you had in school. So yeah, it's definitely on the larger side of what you would call an EDC knife. The only sort of thing that I would kind of suggest is it's a little bit on the thick side in terms of, width across the handle. So if that's an issue for you, like wearing tight pants, maybe a little bit of an issue for you. Wait a minute, that was really badly phrased. Screw it, I'll leave it in. I'm not a wordsmith. Anyway, this knife doesn't make sense. The value is not there, but in hand and in use, it's actually quite capable and quite enjoyable. Just forget that you paid $190 for it. Put that out of your mind as soon as you can. And I think there's actually a fair bit to like in the SOG Vulcan, as long as you can palette that approaching double denim equivalent that it is in the knife world, even for a SOG design. See you guys.